I managed to finish some work early, so I figured I may as well throw together this little overview of how I do the occasional ribbon/beam thing. The first thing we do to set up is we do get the dynamic beam, because this thing has a lot of settings that we can use straight out of the gate. For emitter state, I'm just linking this thing to the system. Under beam emitter setup, everything here can basically be left as is. If you want to expose these parameters, you'll have to set these up relative, not absolute, which is what I found on other project. The spawn burst instantaneous can basically be treated as the resolution. So this has 100 loop cuts, basically once I go into the ribbon renderer and I change this to a tube. The max subdivisions is 16, so 100 across, 16 around. I haven't found a way to exceed that yet, so we are limited by resolution. However, the texture mapping of this is pretty decent, so that's usually not a problem. Under initialize particle, this is where there needs to be zero randomization whatsoever. And the color, because we're overriding the back-facing color, we need to expose and set the color here instead. And because we're using a color from curve, we can return the normalized executive index to basically map color along the spline, as you can kind of see here. Left is the origin point, radiating outwards. In all other instances, once the beam has been created, instead of using return normalized executive index, we use ribbon link order, because the executive index has a tendency to bug out at exactly 0 and exactly 1, and everything in between is fine, which is why I'm hiding that problem entirely by just having the opacity fade to and from black at the beginning and end. Beam width over here uses ribbon link order, and that follows the curve that we have exposed over there on the right. As you can see, I haven't set a facing vector, which is why this is going all funky whenever we rotate around it. I tend to keep these ones normalized and then just scale the curve. Another thing you can do here is mess with the twist amount, and this as well is something that I very much recommend using an exposed curve and ribbon link order for. That way you can have a twist, at the beginning or the end or in the middle. It's very, very flexible. What I've done here is within the shader, I have used 3 different dynamic parameters. There's only one that goes under particle update, and the other 2 go under particle spawn, and it's being used to set static values such as the world position offset, which direction the face is facing, so we can flip the normals, but only the opacity, we're just masking it. Another thing we do here is affect the opacity hardness. This I didn't play around with much. This is purely just for texture treatment. I did throw this together in about 30-ish minutes, so it's very, very quick and dirty, but it does get the point across. So enabling this, we can see that there's a bit of world position offset, and we can also see this other face underneath. That's because it's showing both ribbon renderers. And the way to affect the back face is to use set parameters directly, and then I use a vector 4 to use as a replacement for the dynamic material parameter, and then a back face color override, which I use to, of course, change the color. And this I'm doing by taking the initial color that we've exposed in initialized particle, multiplied by vector 4 that I've created using a linear color. And when enabled, this now adds this lovely backface. I have already manually done the sorting of this, which is why it looks correct here. And then in order to actually get this working, the first ribbon we leave pretty much as is, but in the second ribbon renderer, you will notice that under dynamic material 1 binding, I've replaced this with din param 1, which is what we've exposed under the backface override. From that point onwards, we just affect both using the update parameters. All I'm basically doing is multiplying the system age by a number for both X and Y panning, and then the mask power is just erosion treatment. Another thing that I was messing around with is using a wave function to try get some instability in the beam. It's not very apparent unless you turn it way up, but this is meant to be a way to get some very random kind of energy fluctuation in the main circumference or radius rather of the curve. This is still very R&D because it seems to be overridden by any other scale modification like I've used here to have the beam form in and out, which is done using just the normalized age since everything here has the exact same lifetime. That being said, everything is of course in local space. I haven't found the need to use determinism for this one just yet, although I had imagined for more art-directed stuff this would definitely be an absolute necessity. It's very flexible in terms of how many of these things you can actually stack together. All I've done here is just duplicated the exact same thing, changed a bunch of numbers, and now we have this beam that exists entirely in local space. I hope this has been helpful. If you do anything with it, please do let me know. And yeah,